Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Trademark Sports Podcast. How exciting. We have a rugby league on this weekend. Can you believe it? We're finally back. We've got the trials on and everything. So, look, today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. What other things we're going to talk about is the All-Star game. It's like people coming in, coming out of those teams, and just my thoughts about the All-Star game in general. Which is also this weekend on Friday night. And then we'll talk in a little bit about some stuff with the bunnies, the Broncos. Bit of Broncos chat actually. And then we're going to go into some signing news, and then we'll talk about our trials players to watch, the guys that I've identified from each team. Just quickly, the ones that really stick out to me that I'm going to be excited to watch this week. And so if you're excited for rugby league to be back and you enjoy the podcast, that sort of thing, make sure you like the video, click subscribe, and also leave a comment about the players that you're excited to watch this weekend in the trials. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you download the episode as well as give it 5 stars. So thank you very much for that. So let's get straight into it. Talk about the All-Star game and the people who are out and in. So for the Indigenous All-Stars, you've got Cody Walker out with injury. Isaiah Tass is pulled out, as well as Jacob Alik. And then coming in to replace him is Brian Kelly, Kyle Laybut, and Zach Fulton. So pretty like for like. Kyle Laybut, whoopsie. I think he'll be coming in as like that extra half there off the bench. So the teams have been announced. Braden Trindle and Nico Hines are starting the halves for the Indigenous team. But yeah, for the Māori team, Jacob Gagai is out, and Dallin Martinez-Lesniak is out as well. I think Jacob Gagai was using that representative game as a game of suspension so he can play in round 1, which will make him one of the oldest debutants ever because he's 28. But we'll get into that a little bit later anyway. And then in for the Māori team is Jojo Fafita and Keenan Palasia. So, one thing that I noticed in the teams that have been named for the trials this weekend is that Jacob Gagai and Isaiah Tass have been named for the Rabbitohs, even though they're pulled out of the All-Star game. And Reece Walsh has been named for the Broncos. And this is my issue with the All-Star game. I know it's a really good way to start the season, but I feel like you got to have it at the end of the year or something along those lines, because an All-Star game in some capacity anyway, because these teams have been pulling out players because they are worried about injury and stuff. Like Ruben Cotter, I believe, was named as pulled out as well, and he pulled out because he's worried about getting concussion before the season again. And because the concussion rules are stricter and tighter again, it just worries me a little bit about the All-Star game in this format. I think it's a really good idea, and the way it's been executed is good. However, more and more players and more of the stars are dropping out. There's players who haven't even played NRL in some capacity playing on Friday night, and it's a good thing for them, good exposure for them, but in saying that, it's meant to be All-Stars. So yeah, I am just a little bit worried about the All-Star game moving forward, but look, honestly, that's neither here nor there. I think the NRL will still do it anyway. There's probably some sort of contract tied up that they've got to have it for so long, but I do think Peter V'landys and Andrew Abdo will be having a look. Abdo. Anyway, we'll be having a look at moving and changing the All-Star game moving forward, especially if they're trying to Americanise rugby league. So that's interesting for me. But yeah, look. So Jacob Gagai, it's weird. So he is apparently using the All-Star game suspension, but is then playing on Saturday night in the Charity Shield. But one thing I noticed, so outs for the Indigenous team, you've got Cody Walker, Isaiah Tass, and for the Māori team, you've got Jacob Gagai. So that's 3 of the 5 players I got here from Souths. Given what's been happening at Souths with so many people getting injured and stuff, I reckon it's just Jason Demetriou covering his ass to make sure that he's actually got a good team for round 1. And I get it. If I'm Jason Demetriou, I want my best players available as much as possible with everything in my control. If they get injured at Rabbitohs training, it's shit. Oh well. It's annoying, of course, but it's one of those things that at the end of the day, it's they got injured at the club, not away at doing other things. So I understand it from that point of view. However, it does sort of look bad. The optics aren't fantastic, really. But yeah, look, the Rabbitohs have got Cody Walker out, Tyrone Munro out for 8 weeks, Campbell Graham out for 6 months. So I don't really want to be losing any more quality players in that side. I think that's why Jacob Gagai will probably be coming in to debut there, because sort of when Campbell Graham was out, it's that's all right. It's a really good opportunity for Tyrone Munro to lock down a spot. Or Jack Whiten's also suspended for that first week, but so you thought, oh, you can bring in like your Tane Milnes and Richard Kenners and stuff. But I think now that Tyrone Munro is out as well, they're just looking elsewhere in their squad of who can cover, and that is going to be Jacob Gagai, excitingly for him. So now, let's get on. Adam Reynolds and Paddy Carrigan had a scuffle in the park, and it's become headline news. And I think this is really job well done for rugby league. This is the biggest thing that sort of happened off the field all off season. Look, it's just a couple of drunk blokes, like one trying to send someone home, the other one want to kick on and party. So that happens a million times a weekend. Just because they're Broncos players and they got filmed as news. People talking about how they should be suspended for Vegas because of this. That's a joke. Fine them, do what you got to do, I guess, because they're in the public eye, and it doesn't look good. Like, end of the day, it really doesn't look good. But if you're going to rob the chance of these guys going to Vegas over that, you got other issues. Like, they obviously get along really well. I don't think there's any culture problem there at the Broncos, like people have been saying. Like, the boys were all out on the piss together, having fun. Doesn't seem like culture problems to me. So, yeah, look, enough said there. I reckon we can swiftly move on from that. I think it's just, honestly, all a bit of a laugh, and the overreaction just shows that everyone's stinging for rugby league to come back. So, speaking, though, of the Broncos, there is talk that a certain player might be coming back who might have retired last year, Tavita Pangai Jr., and this really, really, really annoys me. So, he quit rugby league, saying, nah, everyone's a dog, I hate this, rah, 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 like, this is the worst sport, I'm sick of taking orders from halfbacks and coaches and rah, rah, rah. Like, okay, you weren't saying that when you were at Penrith nearly winning a comp. Well, I mean, they did win a comp, but he didn't play in the grand final, so you know what I'm trying to say. Yes, the Bulldogs sucked when he was there. It's probably got something to do with it. But, like, what annoys me is that if he wanted to get a release, he could have. The Bulldogs didn't want him there anyway. Like, he's taking up a massive chunk of their salary cap. So he's just been given a payout to retire. Gonna go pursue boxing. I think he's gonna have 1 or 2 fights. And he just recently said he wants to make his way back into the Broncos through Souths Logan in, like, May or something like that. And I'm like, look, I get it. I respect the hustle in some sense. But I just think it's like, you can't just retire to get your way out of a contract and then come back and do it again. Like, Tomato Martin's the only player I know of really recently who's retired and come back. But that was because he had, like, a brain injury. Like, that's pretty serious. I don't know. It does, like, his attitude has come into question at sometimes, old Tavita Pangai Jr. I mean, I get you want to play for the Broncos and with your mates and stuff now that they're going well as well. That's the other thing. It's like he's talking about how much he hates Sydney and whatnot and hates living there and rah, rah, rah. Again, he didn't really hate it when he was playing for Penrith and they were going well, whether it's just because the Bulldogs weren't winning and because, like, maybe they didn't like him there, I don't know. Me, it's just a messy situation. I'm interested to see what the NRL do, whether they register his contract. I guess there's probably no reason why they wouldn't, but you'd have to bring in, like, well, you retired 6 months ago, so what's changed and why? But look, people make decisions and they regret them later and want to go back on them, so if that's the case, then fair enough. But yeah, for me, it is a very interesting call from Tavita Pangai Jr., and I don't know. He'll be very handy for the Broncos if he comes back, but look, I'm not the biggest fan of all of this news, to be honest. So that takes us into some signing news that's happened over the last week. Now, one of the big ones that broke the other day was that Bradman Best has re-signed with the Knights. So reportedly figure around that 600 to 700k mark, and originally I was like, wow, it's a lot of money for Bradman Best, but then you take into account the new salary cap and whatnot, it probably is about 450, 550 in the old salary cap, and that makes sense. Like, it's a pretty fair price, I'd say. The video that the Knights put up of how he announced and stuff was brilliant. The old Wolf of Wall Street rendition. So that was really cool to see. The Knights culture and the boys, they all actually absolutely love each other. I reckon it'd be a really good club to be around at the moment. So yeah, massive news for the Knights. As well, Joseph Manu looks like he's off to French rugby on $1 million a season deal over there. Honestly, just go chase the bag. Like, getting $1 million to go live in Europe. Not a bad life, is it? There's all these people going, oh yeah, but the Roosters be able to offer him that, like, behind closed doors and all this and that. And, like, look, probably. But I think there's more to it than just what he said. Like, he's got a wife. I'm not sure if he has any kids and stuff, but like, they're still young. They just want to go over, explore, live life. Like, I don't know. For me, I get it from Joey Manu's standpoint. Like, I think he's 26, 27. Still got a few good years of like athletic ability left in him. So why not go over and just get paid $1 million to live in the French southern coast? That'd be unbelievable, in my opinion. But not coincidentally, a couple of days later, I believe, or maybe even a couple of days earlier, Billy Smith re-signed with the Roosters. Probably one of the most unlucky players in the whole competition through injury. He's got stacks of potential, stacks and stacks of talent. So I think it's a no-brainer for the Roosters to re-sign him. I think that spot will then become his, especially with Joseph Swali'i going. You've also got that winger from the Wallabies, Mark N, because I cannot pronounce his last name. He'll be coming over. I guess he'll probably take the wing spot because, you got, Dom Young will take one and he'll probably take the other. And then your centers will be Billy Smith and someone that I'm missing. Probably even Robert Toya, maybe. Well, I can't think. Anyway, either way, they'll still be stacked. Speaking of Roosters players as well, Terrell May's management has reportedly offered him to the Sharks and the Dragons from 2025. Now, I think he'd be a massive get for either of those sides. The Sharks' probably biggest downfall is they haven't had massive punch in the forward pack. Obviously, Royce Hunt's there doing that, and Braden Hamlin-Welle, and they got Adam Fennell-Blake there as well. So if they could sign Terrell May, that'd be huge for them. I think the Dragons as well, like, they really need to bolster their forward pack up. I don't think anyone can really argue that. And as well, I feel like there's also a spot for Talon and Tyrone May. I think that's his name. If they do really want to have all the three May brothers there, then the Dragons is probably the best place to do it. I think they definitely accept that kind of deal if they're willing to put in the hard work and buy into what Shane Flanagan wants there. So last week spoke about Christian Tuipulotu going to the Dragons from Manly. Frees up roster spot for Manly, which Nathan Brown has taken. Apparently he has been, as they say, training the house down over at Manly. Really, I think he knows he's on his last chance of his career, and apparently he's really impressing them there. So he's been rewarded with a top 30 spot. Again, great for Manly because they probably needed a bit of a dynamo in the forwards in the last couple of years. So I think that's really good all round for there. Everyone's a winner. Max King of Maxwell King fame is reportedly looks set to re-sign with the Dogs, which is a good get from the Doggies. He's a really, really good player. Probably their best forward in the front row position anyway. So to lock him down is definitely good because they need to build around him with that forward pack because, geez, they look a lot on troops without him there. So, yeah, good work from the Doggies. And recently, Luciano Leilua has apparently requested a release back to the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Now, I think this, for me, shows that Hillam Lukey and, the other bloke, I can't pronounce his name either. You know what I'm talking about. Young gun from the Cowboys, really, really good second rower. I think that's confirmation that they've re-signed with the Cowboys so that he doesn't really see where he fits into that team. They probably told him that he can look elsewhere. Back to the Dragons, I'm not sure if I like it as a Dragons fan. He was quite lazy. His attitude wasn't fantastic when he was at the Dragons. Obviously, he's older now, probably more mature. His brother is meant to be playing for Dapto Canaries in Illawarra, so he has family and stuff down here, which might be another factor into why he wants to come back to the Dragons. I think Shane Flanagan probably is one of those guys that Flano can get the best out of if he does buy into it. I think Flanagan seems like one of those guys that if you put in for him, he'll put in for you. So it's interesting. If you get him on the right deal, I don't see why not. Although it does just push all these really good young guns that we've got coming through just back in the pecking order, and I feel like they're going to get frustrated and leave, which is the typical Dragon story. So I really hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, look, there's definitely worse players we could sign. He's been good as soon as he left the Dragons, so if he comes back and plays well, then I'm all for it. So that takes us into the players that I'm excited to watch out for in this week's trial matches. So trial players to watch. I'm just going through all the team lists and stuff from every single game and just picked a couple of players that I'm excited to watch, whether it's because they're in a new situation or they're a young gun or there's just been a bit of hype around them in the off season. So get straight into it. So tonight, geez, that feels good to say. We've got the Dogs versus the Storm. From the Dogs, really excited to see how Bronson Cherry plays. back in rugby league. I feel like if we come out and score like 4 tries, he'll be so pumped and ready. Like he'll be, honestly, I reckon there'll be a more hyped man to play a game of rugby league ever than Bronson Xerri tonight. And then as well, young gun Sam Hughes. Massive raps on him from Gus Gould. Is an interview with Jacob Kiraz and the Cast Patrol, and he's talking about how good and fit he is. The last player that Phil Gould came out and spoke about was really killing it in preseason last year was Jacob Preston. He went pretty good last year, so I reckon Sam Hughes is certainly one to watch. From the Storm, Ryan Pappenhuisen. I'm excited to see how Pappy plays. From all reports, I think I heard Scope talking about it on the Levels podcast, that he's talking to Pappy and saying like the ankle injury actually meant that he could had a bit more time to heal his knee, so he's feeling 100% fit. Looks like he's ready to fly. So yeah, Ryan Pappenhausen, I'm really excited to see how he goes in this trial match. I just want to see him in full flight. Like I feel like he won't play the full game, but I reckon he's on for a massive year. Then another young gun forward at the Storm is Tristan Powell. Now their 4-pack, it doesn't scream at you with like, wow, look how much depth we've got. Like this is such an intimidating 4-pack anymore. Tristan Powell is a good youngster coming through, and I feel like he could lock down some NRL minutes if his trial form is really good. That takes us over to the Knights. Fletcher Sharp, fullback there. Obviously you got Kalen Ponga in the main team. Last year's Dalian winner. Is Fletcher Sharp probably going to get a crack? Doubtful, but he has massive raps on him. Always has. Apparently he's really, really good footballer. Then I want to see how Dylan Lucas plays. It'll be interesting to see what edge they all line up on, because there's been some talk that Frizzell's going to move to the left, and now he's moved back to the right because Kai Pearce-Paul's been training so well. Kai Pearce-Paul not named because I think he's still recovering from an injury, not really ready yet just for a game, essentially. So yeah, I want to see how Dylan Lucas goes, because if he kills it again in the trials, then he probably could lock down a starting spot. You also got Jed Cartwright there. For all our Supercoach players out there, he's like $238,000. So if he plays well, then you could potentially be picking up one there. He's so highly owned, I'm not really sure about that. But anyway, it's not a Supercoach podcast. Then at the Sharkies, Cade Dykes, he was really good a couple of seasons ago. Always been massive raps on him. Played a couple of games a couple of seasons ago, then did his ACL in the preseason last year, which is unfortunate for him. I want to see how he goes, because I don't think Will Kennedy or Braden Trindle's spot are really solidified in that side. So if he comes out and does kill it, he could, again, be one of those players that's pushing for NRL minutes. And then it's the Rugby League Gurus, could be anything for 2024, Kale Ito. I think Ito, look, he's a stud. He's a good-looking bloke. I'm not sure whether he does actually play now. I was sort of along the lines of like you can move Talakai to second row. But Talakai was a player with the most try assists out of anyone who wasn't a playmaker last year. So yeah, I think unless he does trial really, really well, I'm not sure whether I see Kale Ito playing for the Sharkies much this year, unless there's an injury or that sort of thing. But hey, we have to wait and see. He's got huge raps on him, so yeah, I'm hoping for his sake that he does really well. Then the Roosters, the only real player that I'm looking to see is how they play is Dom Young. Everyone else they've named is pretty stock standard tricky side. You sort of know how everyone's going to play. I just want to see how Dom Young plays in this Rooster squad. So that's really pretty much it for me. And then at Manly, you've got your Jackson Polo on the wing, Tommy Talau in the centres, which is interesting because from all reports I heard was that Tommy Talau was going to be playing on the wing. So I thought he would have trialled there, but we'll see what happens there. Then young gun in the 14, Jamie Humphries. He was like a half hooker, been playing at dummy half, apparently been absolutely killing it as well. Gordy's spot on the bench certainly isn't solidified. Lachlan Croker, I think if those two young guns are playing better footy than Croker or more dynamic and help them win more, probably will get the start over him, as unfortunate as that is. So yeah, Jamie Humphries apparently, according to all reports, has been sensational. So he apparently as well last week in that 68-6 thumping of the Rabbits. Jamie Humphries absolutely killed it. So certainly one to watch out for there. And then over to the Eels, couple there, Blaze Talangi. He, from all everything that I've heard, gun centre, gun 5'8". Good in both positions. Thought, you know what, in that Eels team, he could crack a centre spot. He's been training at fullback, and apparently they love it there. So he's trialling at fullback. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Could Gutho be on for a move to the centres or something like this if Talangi absolutely kills it? I'm very, very interested to see. It's exciting as well for me. You've also got Ethan Sanders, the 7 there. So he's apparently off to Raiders next year. It's not fully confirmed, whatnot, but killed it under 19s last year for New South Wales. Really, really good up-and-coming, promising halfback. So interested to see how he goes. And as well, guy on the bench, Matt Arthur, Brad Arthur's younger son. He's the one to watch. He's the one who everyone's had massive raps on. I've seen a few highlights and stuff of him. He looks like a really, really good number 9. And Eels are struggling for number 9s. So could Matt Arthur be the answer to the Eels' problems? We'll have to wait and see. Moves us to the Raiders. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about the Raiders rookies and young guns coming through because they probably might have the best ones in the NRL. Chevy Stewart at fullback, Xavier Savage on the wing, Ethan Strange at 7, which surprises me, but I'm really excited to see all those 3 guys play. Massive raps on all of them. And then as well, another guy on the bench, Mitch Henderson. He's like the backup halfback, essentially at the Raiders. So if Jamal Fogarty goes down this season, I imagine to be Mitch Henderson filling in that spot there. Unless maybe it's Ethan Strange. We don't know how Ricky Stewart thinks. He thinks in weird and wonderful ways. He played Seb Chris at fullback all last season, which no one was really expecting. So yeah, Mitch Henderson as well, another gun coming through the Raiders system there. So excited to watch all of those guys. The Rabbitohs, we spoke about him at the start of the podcast, Jacob Gagai. I just want to see, I've seen him play a couple of times. I just want to see how electric he is there. He's 28. I don't think, actually, he's played in the NRL. I was going to double check this real quick because he might have, and I'm just sort of going off on a tangent about how he might be one of the oldest players to ever debut, and he actually has played. Okay, a quick rugby league project search tells me that he hasn't debuted yet, so I wasn't just dribbling. But yeah, excited to see him. Actually interested about the fact that Charity Shield is in the first week of trials this year. Usually it's like the last game before the season kicks off. But anyway, for the Dragons, keen to see how Kyle Flanagan goes and how he plays in that 6 jersey, what him and Ben Hunt do. With that, I'm also excited to see how Lomax and Sloan play. Lomax is named on the wing. Sloan at fullback, not Slomax. Lomax on the wing. Sloan at fullback. Interested to see if they interchange, whether Lomax defends on the wing and then plays fullback in attack or whatnot, or vice versa. So yes, excited to see how they play. Dylan Egan as well, apparently been killing it in Dragons preseason. Liam Martin type second row, if you haven't heard of him. Apparently sort of in the race for that starting second row spot, which is interesting. And then Viliami Fafita, a talented forward we got from Manly in the Aaron Woods swap deal. So excited to see how he plays. Apparently he's been putting his hand up for a spot in the Dragons 17 as well, which is exciting to see. And then the Warriors have a few young guns coming through. First one's a centre named Ali. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm sorry, so I'm not even really going to attempt that. And you got Jacob Laban there, good young second rower. He's 19, plenty of potential. Really, really good. And then Zion off the bench. Not sure, again, how to pronounce his last name. I'm going to have to wait for a commentator or something to say that so I can pronounce it properly. I don't really want to butcher it and offend him or anyone else by trying to say that. But yeah, there's no other Zions getting around in rugby league. So yeah, he's certainly one to watch. And then Tigers, they've got centre from Q Cup. There's been a bit of talk about him recently. Solomona Ta'api. Probably butchered that pronunciation. So yeah, he's a centre. Looks big, massive, quick, tall, fat, just looks the goods. Then I'm excited to see how Jaden Sullivan and Aiden Caesar go in the halves, whether that's going to be the halves pairing in round 1. It seems like they're named a pretty strong side, the Tigers, so I feel like it's sort of they're leaning towards who's going to be their main squad. And then the other guy, Lockie Galvin, named at 14. I'm excited to see how he plays. Benji's been talking him up heaps. And there's a good point I heard from Rugby League Guru the other day. I wonder whether that's just to put a rocket up Latu Fainu. Because I don't even know if he has been named in this trial. I can go quickly look. But Lockie Galvin, from everything I've heard, he's the guy coming through. So's Latu Fainu, though. We've been hearing talks about Latu Fainu since Manasi debuted, and that was years ago. Latu's killed it in the juniors and stuff. And I don't know whether the adjustment to men's football has taken a toll on him a little bit. So we've got here Samuela and Sione are playing Latu, I got Manasi's name stuck in my head. Latu Fainu hasn't been named. He might be carrying injury or something as well, so you have to wait and see there. Then moving into the Cowboys, I want to see how Viliami Vailea plays there, because he could genuinely be a smoky for that center spot. Obviously, you got Laybutt there as well, who's not playing in this game because he is playing in the All-Star game. So yeah, this is Vailea's chance to stake a claim and say, no, I want this center spot. And then number 7 for the Cowboys, Tom Duffy. He's apparently a gun. Seen some highlight stuff of him in Q Cup. Looks good. Chad Townsend's spot definitely isn't solidified at the Cowboys. Jake Clifford's obviously come in there. I think he's playing 6, so it'd be interesting to watch how those two play together. Tommy Dearden, probably just been watching this game looking for who's going to be his halves partner, realistically. But yeah, they're the two guys that I'm excited to watch at the Cowboys. And the Broncos, Dean Mariner has been named on the wing. Supposedly, Corey Oates has locked down that spot, that vacant wing spot. But if Dean Mariner tries really good these next couple of weeks, who knows? I've also got Ben Takura off the bench. Big, massive body. Played pretty good last week. Excited to see how he plays again. Blake Moser, he's got so much potential. I really just want to see him take over a game, per se. He shows glimpses of being an absolute weapon at number 9, but I think everyone's sort of a bit like me as well, just waiting for that one game and you go, okay, righto, he's on now. And then Tristan Saylor killed it last week. Was really, really good. Could get himself into that squad if he keeps that up the next couple of weeks. Then over to the Dolphins. Jack Bostock, again, supposedly won that spot on the wing for the Dolphins. Is really good in the Colts and stuff and Q Cup, but the form hasn't really translated to NRL footy just yet. So again, it's a bit more of a test this weekend to see whether he can match that. Although I believe they're against the Titans, who have named a pretty young side. Trey Fuller, who I think we saw for one game last season, a fullback, electric, plenty of potential. And then Jake Averillo, starting on the bench. I imagine he'll probably just be on the bench for one half, come on for one half. But yeah, excited to see how he plays under Wayne Bennett and in the Dolphins system. And then at the Titans, I'm excited to watch everyone, because I reckon I've heard of maybe 4 or 5 of their players, to be honest. There's so many guys there. I'm like, who is that? I didn't even know that was a person. So I'm excited to watch them there and see who are the guns that stand out against a very strong Dolphins outfit that's been named. So they're the guys that I'm excited to see play in the trials this weekend. Let me know who you are excited for from your club. If there's any guns coming through that you sort of have noticed that I have just missed because I can't keep up with every single club in such depth. So yeah, that's going to end us for another week of the Trademark Sports podcast. What are we going to comment today? Well, let's go. Footy's back with 3 exclamation marks in the comments, so I know you made it right to the end of the podcast. If you have, make sure you've dropped a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube, give it a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Thanks for tuning in for another week, guys, and enjoy your rugby league this weekend. And remember, to Scotty, drink your water.